Good evening and welcome to live show 142. The Empire joins the war. USA attacks Iran. So buckle up because tonight we're diving headfirst into the crisis that's shaking the world. A crisis born of deception, hubris and a reckless disregard for consequences. If you're watching on Rumble, X or YouTube, hit that share button, like the stream and drop your thoughts in the comments. The story that demands your voice. I was going to do a show on the important June 22 date here in Belarus. It is the date when the Nazis attacked the USSR with Operation Barbarossa, and the Brest fortress in Belarus was the first place that was attacked. At 5 a.m. this morning at the Brest fortress, there was a ceremony and a reenactment of the attack on June 22 morning. I have video from this and the ceremony at the Trostinets concentration camp in Minsk at 10 a.m. But the USA attacked Iran this morning, which was how ironic. On the same date, June 22, the Nazis attacked the USSR. So the first part of the show will cover this attack on Iran, and after that we will show you the videos from this morning's events in Belarus. And I'm still not in the studio, as you can see. In Minsk, I'm on my laptop, as I'm in the Brest region of Belarus to cover the event at the fortress, where around 35,000 people converged to honour the heroic efforts of those in the fortress on June 22 and the sacrifice over the next many days of resisting the Nazis. So let's get started with a spark. June 13, 2025, Israel without warning launches Operation Rising Lion, hammering Iran's nuclear facilities, missile sites and military leadership. An unprovoked act of war cloaked in the tired excuse of preemption. But the real gut punch comes today when the United States, yes, the self-proclaimed beacon of freedom, joins the fray, unleashing its Air Force and Navy on Iran's Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan sites. B-2 stealth bombers, bunker busters, 300 Hellfire missiles funneled into Israel in secret. This isn't a skirmish, it's a calculation escalation, a middle finger to diplomacy and a betrayal of every anti-war promise Donald Trump ever made. Now let's talk about the lie. For weeks, the Trump administration waved the flag of peace, dangling nuclear talks through Oman, with envoy Steve Witkoff playing the role of earnest diplomat. Iran bought it, the world bought it, and it was a sham. Reports on the ground echoed on social media and in outlets like Axios revealed the truth. These negotiations were a joint US-Israeli deception, a stall tactic to position P-8 Poseidons and Navy destroyers while Israel prepped its jets. The US gave Israel a green light and then lied about it, claiming they were caught off guard. Evidence shows the US bases provided logistical support. This wasn't diplomacy, it was a trap. And the attack itself, Trump's calling it a historic victory, claiming Iran's nuclear program is obliterated. But hold on, the IAEA and Iranian sources say otherwise. Fordo, buried 90 meters under the mountain, is barely scratched. Natanz underground enrichment halls still operational. The US dropped 30,000-pound bombs, flexed its military might, and what did it achieve? Surface damage, a few craters, over 450 dead in Iran, 24 in Israel, and a region teetering on the edge of all-out war. This wasn't a surgical strike, it was a loud, expensive failure that only made Iran angrier and more determined. But the real scandal, this war is unconstitutional. The US Constitution demands Congress approve acts of war, yet Trump sidestepped it entirely. No debate, no vote, just a unilateral decision to bomb a sovereign country. Senators like Adam Schiff are sounding alarms, but where's the accountability? And let's not forget the irony. Trump, the man who swore he'd end forever wars, who rallied against Middle East quagmires, just started a new one. He's caved into Netanyahu's hawkish agenda, dragging the US into a conflict his own base warred against. MAGA supporters are splitting, with some crying endless wars, while others cheer the bombs. what happened to America first. The fallout. It's global. Iran's vowing a painful response, missiles, cyber attacks, and even mining the Straits of Hormuz. Oil prices are spiking, and Qatar's warning of chaos in Gulf shipping. China's circling, condemning the strikes while eyeing Iran's arms market. Russia offering to mediate, but the real message is clear. The US can't be trusted. From Saudi Arabia to the UN, 20 nations are slamming this aggression. And Iran's foreign minister is right. Every UN member should be alarmed. The US used fake talks to wage war. Who's going to trust Washington now? Not Beijing, not Moscow, not even allies. This is bigger than Iran. It's about world order unraveling. It's about the US empire that's lost its moral compass, alienating allies, emboldening enemies, and risking everything for a war it can't win. Iran's nuclear program isn't dead. It's just hidden. It's likely more dangerous now. And us, we're left with the bill. With higher gas prices, terror threats, and Middle East, one spark away from Armageddon. So tonight, we're breaking it all down, the lies, the strikes, the consequences. We'll hear from experts, read your comments, and ask the questions no one else will. Why did Trump flip? What's Israel's endgame? And how do we stop this from spiraling into World War III? Share this stream, like it, and let us know what you think. This isn't the news, it's a wake-up call. Stay with us. The truth matters. Let's find it together. So, the unprovoked assault on Iran, a tale of deception, aggression, and global distrust. On June 13, 2025, the world witnessed a dramatic escalation in the Middle Eastern tensions when Israel launched an unprovoked military strike against Iran, targeting its nuclear facilities, missile production sites, and senior military personnel. This assault, dubbed Operation Rising Lion, marked a dangerous turning point in an already volatile region. Let's listen to Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were the victims of a Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazi regime. Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear Holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program.
What followed was a coordinated US military intervention shrouded in deception and executed in defiance of constitutional norms, raising profound questions about international trust, regional stability, and the motives of global powers. Far from being a standalone act, the attack was a accumulation of calculated strategy, with the United States playing a duplicitous role under the guise of diplomacy. The lead-up, a web of deception. The Israeli strikes came at a time when Trump administration was publicly touting nuclear negotiations with Iran, mediating through Oman, These talks, led by US envoy Steve Witkoff, were portrayed as a good faith effort to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions following the US withdrawal from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA, in 2018. However, reports from sources such as the Jerusalem Post and social media posts suggest the negotiations were a deliberate ruse, a joint deception orchestrated by the US and Israel to lull Iran into a false sense of security. The Iranian foreign minister later claimed that there was solid evidence that US bases provided logistical support for Israel's strikes, contradicting Washington's claims of non-involvement. Let's listen to Trump then.
Be able to stop Iran from enriching its nuclear?
I don't know. I did think so, and I'm getting more and more less confident about it. They seem to be delaying, and I think that's a shame. But I'm less confident now than I would have been a couple of months ago. Something happened to them, but I am much less confident of a deal being made.
The Trump administration's public stance was one of restraint, with President Trump initially cautioning Israel against military action while negotiations were ongoing. Behind closed doors, however, the US was shifting its positions. According to Axios, Israeli officials revealed that the Trump administration gave a clear US green light for the strikes, despite public denials. By June 8th, a pivotal briefing from the Joint Chiefs of Staff convinced Trump to provide limited backing, with US military assets quietly repositioned to the Middle East, including P-8 Poseidon surveillance planes, a Navy destroyer off Israel's coast. This duplicity not only undermined Iran's trust, but also exposed the negotiations as a facade to buy time for military preparations. The US attack, Air Force and Navy unleashed. On June 22nd, 2025, the US escalated the conflict by directly joining Israel's campaign, launching strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. President Trump announced the operation as a historic moment, claiming the US had achieved complete and total control of the skies of Iran. The US Air Force deployed B-2 stealth bombers, the only aircraft capable of carrying the 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker buster bombs, designed to penetrate deeply buried targets like the Fordo facility. The US Navy supported the operation with missile intercepts and surveillance and cruise missiles, with reports indicating that 300 Hellfire missiles were covertly shipped to Israel prior to the assault. Trump on Truth Social said, "We have completed a very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. All planes are now outside Iranian airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter." The strikes targeted Iran's nuclear infrastructure, aiming to cripple its uranium enrichment capabilities. Israeli fighter jets operating alongside US forces hit military infrastructure, centrifuge production sites, and even Iranian F-4 fighter jets. The operation was described as a sweeping effort to decapitate Iran's nuclear program, with Trump claiming the targeted facilities were totally obliterated. However, these claims are met with skepticism, as subsequent reports reveal significant limitations in the attack's effectiveness. Let's listen to Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
And that was Prime Minister Netanyahu. Now let's listen to Trump's nation address after the attack.
Fox News alert, here's the president.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The underground facility is surface damage and the core is intact. Despite the US and Israeli grandiose assertions, reports from the International Atomic Agency, IAEA, and Iranian state media indicate that the underground nuclear facilities, particularly Fordo, sustain minimal damage. Fordo, buried 80 to 90 meters beneath the mountain, is designed to withstand all but the most powerful conventional weapons. The IAEA confirmed that while surface structures at Natanz and Isfahan were hit, the underground enrichment halls of Natanz showed only additional elements of impact with no radiological changes detected. Iran's state-run IRNA news agency acknowledged attacks on Fordo, but reported no significant damage to its core enrichment capabilities. Experts, including Kelsey Davenport from the Arms Control Association, noted that even a direct hit on Fordo would release only limited radiation confined to the site due to the facility's robust design. The US is much vaulted bunker busters, while powerful, face challenges penetrating the facility's depth, with IAE Director Grossi describing Fordo as half a mile underground. These reports suggest that the strikes, while destructive on the surface, failed to achieve their primary objective of neutralizing Iran's nuclear program, potentially emboldening Tehran to harden its defenses further. Let's have a look at this video.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. از کیلومتر 25 اتوبان
nuclear sites in the Middle Eastern country. The president posting on Truth Social, quote, any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. News Nation correspondent Mills Hayes is joining us live with how U.S. leaders are reacting to the breaking news. Mills, it sounds like a lot of the reaction amongst American politicians, at least, falling along partisan lines.
Hi, Natasha. It definitely is. And we're still getting reactions coming in. Many Republican lawmakers and some Democrats as well lining up to congratulate the president on a successful military operation in Iran. But many other Democrats say that the president ignored the Constitution, which gives the Congress the authority to declare war. Independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont got strong reaction from a crowd in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when he told them about the attacks on Iran's nuclear sites. Sanders going on to tell the crowd President Trump's actions are, quote, grossly unconstitutional. Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer also criticizing the president, saying that he needs to provide Congress and the American people clear answers on the actions taken tonight. He also said, quote, the danger of wider, longer, and more devastating war has now dramatically increased. Schumer's fellow Senator, Republican Mitch McConnell, on the other hand, praised the strikes, calling them a prudent response to warmongers in Iran and saying, quote, I commend the president for authorizing decisive action. Democratic U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ramping up the rhetoric, saying that the president's actions have impulsively risked launching a war that may ensnare us for generations, adding that she considers it grounds for impeachment. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene fired back at AOC, saying, quote, shut up, you pathetic little hypocrite, end quote. MTG calling AOC out over her vote to continue U.S. support to Ukraine in its war against Russia, telling AOC, quote, you don't get to play anti-war and moral outrage anymore. Despite her strong response to AOC, MTG also tweeting out, quote, there would be no bombs falling on the people of Israel if Netanyahu had not dropped bombs on the people of Iran first. She also said that this is not America's fight and peace is the answer. The rhetoric isn't completely divided on partisan lines, though. Not all Democrats slinging shots at the president, including Democratic Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, posting a screenshot of the president's initial Truth Social post about the strike, saying that the president made a correct move and that, quote, Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terrorism and cannot have nuclear capabilities.
Ironically, Trump, who campaigned for ending forever wars and extraditing the US from the Middle Eastern conflicts, has now initiated a new one. Here is a flashback of what he said in the past.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage.
His rhetoric, including calls for Iran's unconditional surrender, contrasts sharply with his earlier pledges of diplomacy. This reversal has fractured his political base, with some MAGA supporters who rallied against past Middle East interventions, warning that assisting Israel risks an endless war. The contradiction between Trump's anti-war promises and his aggressive actions has fueled accusations of opportunism, with critics arguing that he has succumbed to pressure from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has long advocated for military action against Iran. Global distrust, China, Russia and beyond. The US roles in the attack has severely damaged its credibility as a negotiating partner. China, a key economic part of Iran, condemned the strikes and urged immediate ceasefire, with its foreign ministry expressing deep concern over the conflict's regional implications. Chinese commentators on Weibo suggest that Iran's reliance on Russian air defences was a strategic misstep, hinting at Beijing's interest in expanding its own arms market in the region. Russia, meanwhile, warned of irreparable harm if the US deepened its involvement, with Deputy Foreign Minister Ryabkov cautioning against destabilizing the region further. President Vladimir Putin positioned himself as a potential mediator, engaged with Gulf leaders to de-escalate tensions. The broader international community, including US allies like Saudi Arabia and UAE, condemned Israel's targeting of nuclear facilities, with 20 Arab and Islamic countries issuing a joint statement calling for diplomacy. Iran's foreign minister described the US strikes as a violation of international law and the UN Charter, warning that each and every member of the UN must be alarmed. The perception that the US used negotiations as a pretext for war has led to widespread distrust, with responsible statecraft arguing that the attack has made the US even less trusted globally, reducing its soft power and emboldening adversaries like Russia and China. And you can read more on our Substack about Trump's deception. We contacted a previous guest on the show who resides in Dubai to ask him about what they are thinking and talking about there. Okay, and now we've got Booba, or as I call him, Bubba, from Dubai in the UAE. He used to live in Minsk, and we're going to get ask him some questions, what everybody thinks, what's happening in Iran at the moment. So, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm good. Thank you for asking. Thank you once more for having me again. It's been a minute.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I've only got 5 questions for you. How are the people in Dubai reacting to the US attack on Iran, especially given the large Iranian community and the proximity to Iran?
I think, first of all, I would say the attack was really a mistake. That's from my own comment side. The attack was a mistake. And we were long waiting, because most of the people were expecting that Trump would actually do this, but we didn't expect it to come this quick. And, seeing the fact that he wanted to make a peace deal with Iran, the worst thing that he made was to go and attack Iran once, which is really wrong. And people's perspective from here is very feared and is very scary, because the Americans' military bases are all over the Middle East. And this is really going to be a very, very weird moment for most of these Americans, troops out in most of this Middle East, where about millions of foreigners are living peacefully and, trying to build a life for themselves. So I would say the attack was it was dangerous. This can lead to World War III, which nobody is praying for right now. And the response from Iran is what people are really waiting for, and which we know Iran will retaliate. And it's not really good for business. It's not good for the economy. The whole world is crumbling, and then the economy is drastically going down. And hopefully what they don't understand, this is giving even the Russian Federation more power to overcome both economically, financially, and also become independent, because at the end of the day, they have attacked most of the bases that Iran is supplying, oil and gas globally now. So having those kind of attacks will actually slow most of the world, oil and gas sector. And people in the Middle East, if you know, Dubai is really a place where oil and gas is always fluctuating back and forth. and business is going so rapidly that people don't want anything that would affiliate. A few days ago, flights were cancelled. If you check that on in Dubai, DXB, the whole of the flights were cancelled. Like everything was cancelled, automatically cancelled, because the route that most of the flights are using is the Iran airspace, the Middle East.
Yeah,
Which
the
is
same.
the Gulf airspace.
The same ones from Minsk to Dubai were cancelled as well because of that reason.
Exactly. So the reaction of people here, is really so very scary, as the UAE is very close to Iran and Israel. It's very close to Jordan. It's very close to Saudi Arabia. So basically, these are the Gulf country that really the government has condemned this attack. The government of Saudi have condemned this attack. Yesterday, the Turkish president was also on live condemning this attack. So literally, this is not something that we are praying for, and it was a big mistake.
Well, that's what I was going to ask next, is what was the UAE government saying publicly about the US strikes on Iran, and how does that compare to what the people are hearing privately or on the streets?
Literally, Dubai is literally a place where people always tends to mind their business because nobody owns Dubai. The government of the UAE a few days ago has really so much support to the Iranians who lives in the UAE. A few days ago it was all over the Gulf news, which is really very, very, very good and supportive. Most of them who wanted to go back to their countries, the government are really doing everything that they can to be able to support them, and then see how best they can be able to stay longer in the UAE for their safety. Not to be, have any kind of war affair in their heads. Actually, we have also seen the same thing in Saudi. Those who went for the pilgrimage, the government of the UAE, the government of the Saudi has also supported them with food, with housing, with shelter, with a lot of things actually, which really is showing that the world has really condemned the attack. The people in the public, a lot of them are talking about it, because nobody, if you check within here, all over social media, nobody is condemning Iran to self-defense themselves. You understand? Because Israel called this self-defense when October 7 happened between them and the Palestinians, and then they keep on doing that. So it was so much, relief for all the people who saw the twist around that what the Iranis are doing is self-defense for them, and they have the right to defend themselves, because at the end of the day, they have to defend themselves. You understand?
Are there concerns in Dubai about economic fallout, like impacts on tourism or trade due to this US-Israeli action against Iran?
At now, we can't tell, because at the end of the day, I said some few days ago, the whole of the flight were cancelled. I'm sure that might have caused a lot of loss to most of the airlines, and probably, and we can't really give out exactly what is it going to cost, but I'm sure when the war continues, it might affect almost not just the UAE, but most of the Middle East countries, because everybody will be on alert on what will happen next, or will Israel attack them, or will America attack them, and all that. So it's a concern for almost general.
How do people in Dubai view the US's role in this conflict, especially after claims of deception in negotiations and fear of Iranian retaliation against US bases in the UAE?
We have not really. There is no of such kind of news yet that we have. As I said, Iran has made it really publicly clear that any aggressions against the Americans will retaliate with, will cause to a huge retaliation within the Middle East, within the Gulf areas, meaning any base that Americans are having within the Gulf state, either Bahrain, either UAE, either Saudi, wherever it is directly, the UAE are not involved with this whole thing, literally, which we are really appreciative about. They've been so supportive with the Iranis of for them to come to a ceasefire with Israel, not just a ceasefire, but permanent ceasefire. And whether they're going to attack the US base in the UAE, we are not clear. We're not really sure. We can't say anything of such that we know. The UAE has been off war for many, many years. So we cannot say that war can be imposed within the UAE, or within anywhere close by. But most of the other, Gulf countries, which I am sure might be attacked, especially those very close to Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can't say much about what will happen here. We are not really, because most of the war, when you are around Bahrain or maybe in Iraq, or you are around the Gaza Strip, I think you have seen on the social media, people are filming, seeing ballistic missile off and on, back and forth. But we can see that because we are just outskirts of the whole, wherever everything is happening. I said, despite whatever is going on, everybody is concerned about what will happen next, and what is going to happen, is really very fearing. And this is an alarm to World War III, which nobody is really praying for right now.
Is there a sense in Dubai that the UAE could get drawn into the conflict? And what are people saying about Israel's initial attack as a trigger for this war?
Whether the UAE will join, I can strongly tell you no. As I said, UAE is known for peace. It's really known for the peacemakers. They always bring countries together to come and solve peace within here. So whether they will join, that is absolutely no. And immediately when Israel attacked them, I said all the Gulf countries that I have known within the news has condemned the attack, meaning they have said Israel shouldn't have attacked Iran. It's not like you cannot just wake up one day, and attack somebody. All I can tell is Netanyahu has been aiming for this war for a long time. He's been, since 1992, he's been saying the same thing. Saddam Hussein, let's kill Saddam Hussein. If we kill Saddam Hussein, this is going to happen. It's been a long time. Even George Bush was really aiming to attack Iran a long years ago, which they never did. So 40 years of now, Iran has not been in any war. They have not attacked nobody have attacked them. So meaning they have been peacefully. Netanyahu will say this in 2002, that Iran is 60% of enrichment of nuclear weapon, which never happened. This was since 2002. We are in 2025, and he said within 3 months they will, get an atomic bomb. They were saying,
he's been saying, he's been saying it for 30 years.
So he want to really conquer the whole of the Gulf area. I think in my perspective, I find out that Israel is basically more like how do I call it, the center of Americans to the Middle East. You understand?
Yeah, well, they do call Israel America's aircraft carrier.
Exactly.
In the Middle East.
Netanyahu keep on dragging America into this war. He's been doing that for many years, and then Americans are awake. The congressmen, I just saw on tweets and also on X that most of the congressmen have really condemned this attack by Donald Trump. He has violated the international law. He has violated the international UN Charter. They have been saying all this nonsense for many years. They have attacked Gaza here. He have violated the law. They have just been saying that nonsense and bullshit, but nothing has happened. Gaza is still where it is directly. Attacks are coming every day. Civilians have been killed going to get food and stuff like that. So what is the difference if they still attacked Iran? We are really we have been expecting this. We don't know when. We have been expecting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. If you don't mind, keep us up informed, and we'll get you on again if there's anything that happens in the UAE.
For sure, we will. Just this short word of Trump. Every time he speaks about, since he came to power, 2 weeks I'm going to do this, 2 weeks I'm going to do that, 2 weeks I'm going to do this. If you quote on all his conversations, cut them off, everything is 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Nothing happened. 2 weeks I will stop Israel from attacking Palestine. 2 weeks become more bombardment. 2 weeks I will stop the Russian-Ukraine war. 2 weeks become more bombardment. 2 weeks, so it's been bullshit. Nothing more. We know him as he was supposed to be the peace president, but it seems like to be the opposite side.
Yeah,
America
that's
has
true.
never seen demonstration, like this before in the American history. Demonstration has been happening, but the way it is happening now has never been done before in the American history. It's more like every week there is demonstration going on now in America.
Yeah. Okay, thanks again.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Okay, we're going to get some views on from America. Here's Rolf. He's been on before. How are you, Rolf?
Good. How are you doing, Dave?
Good. What have you heard about the US attack in Iran, and how do you feel about America getting involved in another Middle East conflict?
Well, I recently heard that early this morning or late last night that Trump did allow the military to bomb nuclear targets in Iran. And I actually think it's kind of ridiculous. We shouldn't have anything to do with Iran or anything, but we've been involved with Iran for years. As far as I remember, back in the 80s, with the Middle East. And the thing about the United States, every administration does different things. An administration, two administrations that gave Iran, the ability to make nuclear bombs, money and plutonium, is it?
Well, the Shah of Iran was building a nuclear reactor with American help.
Yeah. So we feed them all that stuff and then we bomb them. It doesn't make sense.
Mm.
But somebody's getting a lot of money. Somebody's going to make a lot of money off this. That's usually how it works.
Yeah. Always. Do you think President Trump was right to order these strikes without Congress's approval, or does that worry you?
Our Congress is defunct. I don't believe that we have an actual Congress there. Not for America, put it that way. I think a president has the right to do something in that line, but only to defend the United States, not defend another country or the world, depending on the situation, of course. But to just, say, oh, I think we're going to bomb Iran because we said they have nuclear bombs or whatever. If they were threatening us with them, sure. But if they're just, it's not proven or anything, no, I don't think a president should be able to just randomly decide on who and where and when to bomb.
There's talk that the US misled Iran with fake negotiations before the attack. Does this change how you see the conflict?
No. I think they're all bullshit. Excuse my language.
The strikes didn't destroy Iran's underground nuclear sites, and now there's fear of retaliation. Are you worried that what might happen next, like higher gas prices?
No. Our gas prices in New York are still fairly $3 and above.
Yeah, but it might go up to $10, $12 a gallon.
Yeah, that's bull crap. It'll never happen.
If they cut the Strait of Hormuz off, they will. It will. We're
pumping and back. We're back to drilling and pumping here in America, so I don't believe it'll happen.
Okay. Trump campaigned on ending wars, but now he started one with Iran. Does this surprise you? And how do you think it'll affect his support?
It does surprise me. I think Trump is just another cog in the wheel of a system that we have no clue about, but it's just another puppet. He's just another puppet. The system, whoever the system is, plays both sides, and they've been doing it for a long time. Keep us divided, keep us all in the dark.
Okay, well, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Dave. Nice seeing you again.
And what other potential consequences? A region on the brink. The consequences of the US-Israeli attack are multifaceted and perilous. Regionally, the strikes risk igniting an all-out war, with Iran vowing a painful response and preparing missile strikes on the US bases. Iran's ability to sustain retaliatory strikes, bolstered by its missile stockpiles and strategic patience, poses a significant threat to US and Israeli interests. The targeting of civilian infrastructure, such as hospitals and oil facilities, has already caused widespread destruction, with over 450 deaths reported in Iran and 24 in Israel. Economically, the conflict threatens global energy markets, with Qatar warning of significant repercussions for shipping in routes. Iran's potential to mine the Strait of Hormuz could disrupt oil exports, further straining the global economy. Diplomatically, the attack has derailed prospects for a new nuclear agreement, with the intrusion inspections of the ICPOA now a distant memory. Iran's likely dispersion of nuclear materials could lead to a clandestine weapons program, increasing the risk of proliferation. Globally, the US's actions have alienated allies and emboldened rivals. The UN Security Council, at the request of Iran, Russia, China, Pakistan and Algeria, convened an emergency session to address the crisis, signalling a widespread international alarm. The perception of US complicity in Israel's aggression has strengthened anti-American sentiment, potentially fueling terrorism and cyber attacks, areas where Iran has proven capable. And the Iranian parliament has just unanimously reached a decision to close the Strait of Hormuz. Now we have a final decision, rests with the Supreme National Security Council and the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. So, concluding this, a legacy of mistrust and instability. The unprovoked Israeli attack on Iran, enabled by the US deception and military might, has plunged the Middle East into a new era of uncertainty. The failure to significantly damage Iran's underground nuclear facilities, coupled with the unconstitutional nature of the US intervention, exposes the recklessness of the operation. Trump's betrayal of his anti-war rhetoric, combined with the erosion of global trust in US diplomacy, has left the world grappling with the fallout of the conflict that could have been avoided through genuine negotiations. As China and Russia and others distance themselves from Washington's aggression, the US risks isolating itself on the global stage, with the consequences that may reverberate for decades. Today, on June 22nd, 2025, we reflect on a pivotal moment in history, the German invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941, known as Operation Barbarossa. At 5 a.m. on that day, the Brest fortress in Belarus became the first target of the massive assault. This historic fortress, a symbol of resilience, stood as a defiant outpost where Soviet defenders faced overwhelming odds, holding out for weeks against relentless German attacks. Their courage set the tone for the Soviet resistance in what became known as the Great Patriotic War. So fast forward to this morning, 35,000 people gathered at the Brest Fortress to commemorate this sacrifice. They witnessed a powerful ceremony and reenactment of that fateful day, honouring the defenders who fought not just for their homeland, but for, as many believe, to save the world from tyranny. Here's some videos from that.
Ах, до тебя, родной, доплыть бы хотя б когда-нибудь. Где-то далеко, очень далеко, идут грибные дожди. Прямо у реки, в маленьком саду, созрели вишни, наклонясь до земли. Где-то далеко, в памяти моей, сейчас, как в детстве, тепло, хоть память укрыта такими большими снегами.
The main place of memory and strength for millions of people around the world. An unconquered fortress attacked by a brutal war and forever became a symbol of courage in the annals of the Great Patriotic War. She heard the roar of fascist bombs and shells, the rain of lead, the fiery horror, and also how loudly hearts beat at dawn, awakened by 500,000 German artillery shells and mines. In the fortress was located 8,000 garrison and about 300 families of command staff. 0400 peaceful life and hopes have been destroyed, and for the next 17 days, millions of people will be forced to take up arms and stand until the end, until the victor himself. Until the bright banner of victory rises above defeated Berlin. And the feats here today are reminiscent of the living monuments and the portrait of the dead and 1,000 lamps. And what really remembers everyone, says the number of people gathered in this sacred place. This night in the Citadel told a heartfelt story about the tragedy of a little girl who passed the roads of war, a chronicle of living memory and photos of the defenders of the Brest fortress and their letters.
Our fathers were children of war, and how much did we hear about ourselves in our childhood? Yes, from parents, grandfathers, from grandmothers. Then I already saw tears in my parents' eyes. They told me how hard it was to survive mine.
My grandfather died and my father participated. And in short, I know all these events from my parents, from my grandmother, so of course I experience all this, and all the more so now. I'm crazy. Children, grandchildren, I wish this would never happen again.
The suffering of the ruins of the Brest fortress is best remembered by the horrors of war. It was here that the first steps towards victory were taken. The first to take on the Nazi fascist 84 years ago were the battle frontier.
Having found the shortest night, unfortunately for our country, for 3 years turned into a night of horror and hell, and 3 million Belarusians died. They seem to actually demand from heaven that we honor their memory every year on this date. And it seems to me that every year a new generation of young people has arrived. People who seem to not feel these events so acutely due to the fact that there are no living witnesses. We have only 800 veterans of the Great Patriotic War left in Belarus, but nevertheless every Belarusian family has a memory of its heroes. And we try to prepare all events dedicated to the national memory of the victims of the Great Patriotic War on June 22nd in a special way.
And the gathered concert requiem, and then to the eternal fire, flowers, a minute of silence, and a victorious salvo lay on the memorial slabs.
Грохот первых снарядов, свист осколков, стоны раненых и кровь убитых, гарь и дым пожаров застилают встающее на востоке солнце. Те, кто уцелел в огненном смерче, схватив оружие, выбегают из горящих зданий, занимают оборону или пытаются найти хоть какое-то убежище от осколочного и политической потери. Командование немцев решает покончить с локальным сопротивлением одним и решительным ударом.
And at noon today, Belarus paused for a nationwide minute of silence, a solemn tribute to the millions who lost their lives and the countless destinies shattered during the war. In Trostnets, concentration camp, thousands gathered for a requiem meeting, joined by the leaders like Natalia Kovachev and Vladimir Peretsov, laying flowers at the Gates of Memory monument to honor the victims of the war and the genocide of the Belarusian people. Here's some videos from that.
Молитесь, люди, водно склоните голову скрусе. Боже, такого ніколи не буде на благословенной земле Беларуси.
Склоним же головы в память о безвинных жертвах и возложим цветы к вратам памяти. Память о мертвых и в назидание живым мы приносим цветы к мемориалам и памятникам. Цветы к монументу врата памяти возлагаю председатель Совета Республики Национального собрания Республики Беларусь Наталья Ивановна Качанова, заместитель председателя Палаты представителей Национального собрания Республики Беларусь Ипатов Вадим Дмитриевич, первый заместитель главы администрации президента Республики Беларусь Перцов Владимир Борисович, председатель Минского городского исполнительного комитета Кухарев Владимир Евгеньевич, председатель Национального статистического комитета Республики Беларусь Медведева Инна Викторовна, председатель Федерации профсоюзов Беларуси Синько Юрий Алексеевич. Объявляется минута молчания.
Это самый тяжелый день в нашей жизни, потому что ежегодно в этот страшный день, тяжелый для нашего общества и в целом для мировой общественности, я считаю, много гостей присутствует. Тяжелейший день, потому что не хочется верить, что это произошло. Звери так не поступают. Даже если поступают, это бешеные звери. Устроить здесь концентрационный лагерь, убить невинных 546 тысяч, причем первой партии привести своих сограждан с Гамбурга, это даже на зверей не похоже. Поэтому, к сожалению, это произошло. И каждый день, каждый час мы об этом помним. И обязываем, и просим своих сограждан никогда не забывать об этом ужасе, который здесь произошел.
I am here today and I feel incredible feelings of unity with all the people of Belarus and Russia, which are really impossible not to feel on this date, that same feeling of grief. At the same time, the joy of the fact that we remember all this when you visit places like these memorials, This is really very important for future generations so that this disaster never happens again.
The sacrifice of the Soviet people was immense, and their stories lived through the few surviving veterans, memoirs, and accounts of those dark times. As some in the West attempt to rewrite history, the words of those who lived through remind us, we didn't die, we just left. Let's honour their legacy by remembering the truth of their sacrifice. And still in Belarus, we turn to a significant diplomatic development in Minsk, where Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko hosted Keith Kellogg, the special envoy of the US President, at the Palace of Independence. This high-profile meeting, which lasted over 6 hours, signals a potential thaw in Belarusian-American relations. Notably, the head of the Belarusian KGB, Ivan Turtle, was also present, underscoring the gravity of the discussions.
Какие люди у нас.
My friend,
What
the person here? Very glad. Again. This is General.
Кто его не знает? Самое медийное лицо по последнему времени.
Media face all over the world right now.
Крис, приветствую тебя. Как ты жив, здоров? Нормально? Привет, десантников.
Yes, hi, paratrooper.
Sir, we really appreciate the hospitality and the invite. We live in very, very perilous times, and the constant concern that we have is a crisis that could escalate and grow if we are not only cautious, but wise.
Господин президент, огромное спасибо за то, каким образом вы нас встретили. Мы очень рады. Мы живем в очень опасное время, когда те кризисы, с которыми мы сталкиваемся, могут резко эскалировать, разрастаться, если мы не будем мудрыми и справедливыми.
Господин генерал, я вам обещаю, что вы будете в полной безопасности на территории Беларуси, и за это время не произойдет никакой эскалации не только в Беларуси, но и вокруг нас.
Mr. General, I can promise you that you will be absolutely safe and secure while in Belarus, and I can promise you that there will be no escalation, not only in Belarus, while you are here, but around us.
And you said, sir, you said about being very honest and upfront. I guarantee you, one of my sometimes questionable qualities is I am very honest and very blunt, and I will be the same with you.
Господин президент, вы говорили о том, что нам надо быть открытыми и честными, и я могу вас заверить, это одно из тех качеств, за которые меня иногда критикуют. Я иногда слишком честен и слишком прозрачен.
Я это знаю.
I know this.
Но у вас президент такой открытый сейчас.
But you have a president who is very open and very transparent. So.
Yes.
Да.
Sergio had an office like this. Sergio.
With all the gold here, this looks a lot like Mar-a-Lago.
It does.
President Trump said.
Это лучше выглядит, чем гольф-клуб Mar-a-Lago.
Рады вас видеть в этом хорошем месте. Шуму вы наделали в мире очень много своим приездом, но я удивляюсь, почему. Разве мы не можем вести нормальные диалоги, разговаривать о наших делах, об отношениях между Беларусью и Соединенными Штатами Америки?
Gentlemen, I welcome you here to this palace, and you have created a lot of noise in the world by your visit, which is surprising to me, honestly, because why can't we have normal dialogue between the United States and the Republic of Belarus?
Но, тем не менее, я очень рад видеть, Джон, тебя, прежде всего, в хорошем, бодром настроении. Ну, Крис, еще рано ему говорить об этом. У нас всегда молодой и здоровый. Ну, и очень рад, господин генерал, встретиться с вами. Я очень надеюсь, что наша беседа будет очень искренней, открытой. В противном случае, чего встречаться?
Если мудрить, хитрить друг перед другом, мы результата не добьемся.
I'm very happy to see you all here, and I very much hope that our discussion will be very honest and very transparent, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to have any meetings at all, because we have to be honest and transparent in our discussions.
And which we have been.
Как и было до этого.
Да, совершенно верно. Совершенно верно. Я очень рад, что у нас люди есть, которые здесь не первый раз, поэтому нам полегче. Но господин генерал уже приспособится к нам сегодня, и думаю, что также будет себя чувствовать хорошо.
The agenda was packed, covering global and regional issues, including sanctions on Belarus, conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East, and Belarus ties with Russia and China. Lukashenko didn't mince words, saying, "You've made a lot of noise with your arrival, but why the surprise? Can't we have a normal dialogue about Belarus and the US?" He emphasised his desire for a sincere and open conversation, adding, "If we try to be cunning, we won't achieve results." A major outcome of the visit was the release of several individuals convicted in Belarus of extremism and terrorism at the request of the US President. Among them were foreigners, 2 Japanese, 3 Polish, 2 Latvian citizens of Estonia, Sweden and the US, as well as some Belarusians, including Sergei Tikhanovsky, the husband of the opposition figure Sveta Tikhanovskaya. Tikhanovskaya, a former political prisoner, has reportedly left Belarus. According to Belarusian Press Secretary Natalia Esmont, these pardons were directly requested by the US President. But there's more. Sources indicate the American embassy, which has been operating from Vilnius alongside the Belarusian opposition, may soon return to Minsk. With a change in US leadership, financial support for the Belarusian opposition has reportedly dried up, marking a shift in Washington's approach. This marathon meeting, spanning over 6 hours, wasn't just talk, it's reshaping the landscape of Belarusian-American relationships. As Lukashenko put it, it's time for a honest dialogue. What does this mean for Belarus, the US and the region? Stay tuned as we'll follow this unfolding story. And that's a wrap for live show 142. Empire joins the war. USA attacks Iran. Folks, we've peeled back the layers tonight. Israel's unprovoked strike, the US's betrayal of diplomacy, the bombs that missed their mark, and the world left holding its breath. This isn't just a news cycle, it's a turning point. Iran's nuclear sites still stand. The Middle East is a powder keg, and trust in the US is crumbling from Beijing to the UN. Trump's war, unconstitutional and against his own promises, has us startling down the future where escalation feels closer than peace. And also we covered the June 22 ceremonies here in Belarus and the visit from the President's Special Envoy, General Kellogg. So thanks for joining us, for sharing your comments and amplifying this conversation. We read every one of your thoughts. Keep them coming on Rumble, X and YouTube. Hit that like button, share the stream, and let's keep the pressure on for truth and accountability. The questions we raised tonight about deception, consequences, and what comes next aren't going away, and neither are we. This is about our world, our future. Stay awake, stay engaged, and we'll be back to dig deeper on Wednesday. Until then, take care, question everything, and let's push to a better path. Good night, and see you soon. Bye.